My parents told my younger sister to skip her graduation because the older sister had deliberately scheduled her wedding on the same day, expecting everyone to drop everything for her like always. I'm 32 male stuck in the middle of what I can only describe as the most dysfunctional family dynamic you've ever seen. My older sister Hannah, 35 female, has been the golden child since birth. Everything she does is perfect. Everything she wants, she gets. Meanwhile, my younger sister Lily, 22 female, and I have spent our entire lives as background characters in Hannah's personal reality show. Growing up, the favoritism wasn't even subtle. Hannah got a brand new car for her 16th birthday, a Honda Civic that my parents bought outright. When I turned 16 2 years later, I got a lecture about responsibility and a bus pass. Lily didn't even get the lecture, she just got ignored. Hannah's bedroom growing up was basically a suite. She had the master bedroom on the second floor with her own bathroom, a walk-in closet, and enough space for a desk bed and sitting area. My room was a converted storage space that still smelled like mothballs. Lily got the smallest bedroom in the house, barely big enough for a twin bed and dresser. Christmas was always the Hannah show. She'd get the latest electronics designer clothes, whatever she'd been hinting at for months. One year, she got a MacBook Pro, an iPhone, and a trip to New York for her birthday. I got a $50 gift card to Target and socks. Lily got a sweater from Goodwill that still had the thrift store tag on it. The pattern was so consistent, it became a family joke. Except nobody was laughing except Hannah. Every Christmas morning followed the same script. Hannah would come downstairs in her designer pajamas that Mom had bought specially for the occasion. She'd position herself by the tree with perfect lighting for photos. Mom would document every gift opening like it was a historical event. Meanwhile, Lily and I would sit on the couch in our regular clothes watching the Hannah Christmas special. We'd open our modest gifts during commercial breaks in Hannah's production. Mom would occasionally remember we existed and throw us a smile. Dad would be too busy recording video of Hannah's reactions to notice we were even in the room. I remember one particular Christmas when I was 17 and Lily was 9. Hannah had just gotten her driver's license, and our parents bought her a brand new Honda Civic, had it delivered Christmas morning with a giant red bow on top. Professional photographer there to capture her reaction. The whole neighborhood came out to watch. Hannah cried happy tears, hugged Mom and Dad, posted about it on every social media platform, talked about how blessed she was to have such amazing parents who believed in her. That same Christmas, I got a calculator for the engineering classes I was taking. Lily got a pack of colored pencils. We opened our gifts in the kitchen while everyone was outside admiring Hannah's car. Lily looked at her colored pencils and then at me, asked if I thought Hannah would let her ride in the new car sometime. I told her probably not. Hannah didn't like getting her car dirty. Lily nodded like she'd expected that answer, put her colored pencils back in their packaging carefully. Said she was going to save them for something special. That way, they'd last longer. She was 9 years old and already understood that she needed to make her small gifts stretch because there wouldn't be more coming. Meanwhile, Hannah was outside revving her engine for the neighbors. My parents Dave and Patricia aren't evil people. They're just completely blind when it comes to Hannah. She's their firstborn, their princess, the child who can do no wrong. When Hannah got a B in high school chemistry, my parents hired a private tutor. When I got straight A's, they said that's what was expected. When Lily struggled with math, they told her to work harder. Hannah went to a private college on my parents' dime. Full tuition room and board spending money, the works. They paid for everything for 4 years while she majored in communications and partied her way through school. I went to State University on scholarships and student loans. Lily's currently at community college because that's all we could afford. The pattern continued into adulthood. Hannah got a down payment for her first house. I got congratulations when I finally scraped together enough to buy my own place. Hannah got family-funded vacations. Lily and I got asked why we never visit. But here's the thing about golden children. They don't just want preferential treatment. They want to be the center of attention at all times. And when they're not, they find ways to make sure they are. That's where this whole mess started. Lily's been working her butt off at community college for 4 years. She started late because she had to work full-time to save money first. Took night classes, weekend classes, whatever fit around her schedule at the warehouse where she works, inventory management. No help from our parents, no financial support, just pure determination. She maintained a 3.8 GPA while working 40 hours a week, and dealing with a family that barely acknowledged her existence. Her graduation was set for May 15th. She'd been planning for this day since she enrolled, bought her cap and gown months in advance, invited everyone in the family, sent formal invitations with RSVP cards because she wanted to do it right. This was her moment, her achievement, her day to finally be recognized. The invitations went out in January. Everyone RSVP'd, yes. Mom and Dad said they were proud. Hannah even sent a text saying she wouldn't miss it. Everything was set. Then in March, Hannah announced her engagement to her boyfriend Brandon. He's a decent guy, honestly works in insurance, pretty quiet, seems to genuinely care about Hannah. They'd been dating for 2 years, and nobody was surprised when he proposed. The family dinner where she announced the engagement was peak Hannah. She made Mom close the restaurant so we could have a private celebration, brought a professional photographer to document the announcement, had a slideshow prepared with photos of her and Brandon set to romantic music. The whole production probably cost more than Lily's entire tuition. The restaurant was this upscale Italian place that Mom loved. Hannah had reserved the entire back room. When we arrived, there were flowers on every table, candles everywhere, a champagne fountain in the corner. She'd even hired a violinist to play during dinner. Brandon looked uncomfortable with the whole production. He's a quiet guy who probably would have been happy with a simple family dinner. But Hannah had other plans. This was her moment, and she was going to milk it for everything it was worth. We sat through a 3-course meal while Hannah dropped hints about a big announcement. She kept touching her left hand, making sure we all noticed the ring before she officially revealed it. Building suspense like this was the season finale of her reality show. Lily sat next to me picking at her pasta. She'd just come from a shift at the warehouse and looked exhausted, still wearing her work clothes because she didn't have time to change. Meanwhile, Hannah was in a designer dress that probably cost more than Lily made in a month. After dessert, Hannah stood up, tapped her glass with a fork like we were at a wedding reception. The photographer positioned himself for the perfect angle. The violinist started playing something romantic. Hannah gave this whole speech about love and destiny and finding her soulmate, about how Brandon had proposed at sunset on a beach in California during a weekend getaway, about how perfect everything was, about how blessed she felt. Then she showed us the ring. Giant diamond had to be at least 2 carats. The thing practically needed its own zip code. Everyone congratulated her. Mom cried happy tears. Dad gave Brandon the approving father speech. I said congratulations and meant it because I actually liked Brandon. Lily hugged Hannah and seemed genuinely happy for her. That's when Hannah dropped her bomb. She announced the wedding date May 15th, the exact same day as Lily's graduation. The table went silent. Lily's face fell. She looked like someone had slapped her. I saw the exact moment her heart broke watching our older sister deliberately choose to overshadow the one accomplishment Lily had ever been proud of. Hannah noticed the silence and did this little laugh, said it was the only date the venue had available, and they'd gotten such a good deal. The place was usually booked 2 years out, but they had a cancellation. It was fate, meant to be. I looked at Lily. She was staring at her plate, fighting tears. 4 years of work, 4 years of sacrifice, and Hannah was about to make it disappear. Mom immediately started planning mode, talking about dresses and flowers and venues. Dad asked about the guest list. Nobody mentioned Lily's graduation. Not one person except me. I asked Hannah if she realized that was Lily's graduation day. She did this dismissive wave and said Lily would understand. Graduations happen every year, but weddings are once in a lifetime. Besides, the ceremony was only an hour. Lily could just skip the reception. Lily stood up from the table, said she needed to use the restroom. I saw her grab her purse. She wasn't coming back. I found her in the parking lot, sitting in her car, crying. Not dramatic sobbing, just quiet tears running down her face while she stared at the steering wheel. She said she was fine, that Hannah was right. Weddings are more important. She'd just skip her graduation ceremony. It's not like anyone would notice if she wasn't there anyway. That's what broke me. Not anger, just this cold, clear realization that I was done watching our family treat Lily like she didn't matter. I told Lily not to skip anything, that her graduation was important, and she'd earned it, that she was going to walk across that stage and get her degree while our family cheered for her. She gave me this sad smile, said I was sweet, but we both knew that wasn't going to happen. Hannah's wedding was the priority now. It always was. I told her to trust me that I'd handle it. She didn't believe me. I didn't blame her, but I meant every word. The next morning I started making calls. Started with Aunt Robin, Dad's sister. She's always been this reasonable one in the family, the one who calls out nonsense when she sees it. She'd noticed the favoritism over the years, and had tried to balance it by paying extra attention to Lily and me during family gatherings. I laid out the situation, told her about Lily's graduation, about Hannah's wedding date, about how Lily was planning to skip her own ceremony because nobody in the family seemed to care. Robin was quiet for a moment. Then she said some words I won't repeat about Hannah's sense of entitlement. She asked what I needed from her. I needed her to talk to the extended family to make sure they understood what was really happening. That this wasn't just a scheduling conflict. This was deliberate. Robin said she'd handle it, that she had some phone calls to make. Next was Uncle Frank, Mom's brother. He's a straight shooter, runs his own business, and doesn't tolerate nonsense from anyone. He'd always treated all three of us the same, which made him my favorite uncle growing up. I called him that afternoon, explained the situation. His response was immediate and harsh. Said it was disrespectful and that Hannah should know better, that he'd be having words with my parents about their priorities. I told him I wasn't looking to start family drama. I just wanted to make sure people understood what they were choosing between. He got it. Said he'd make sure the family knew this wasn't just about a date conflict. Over the next 2 weeks, I had similar conversations with cousins, second cousins, family friends. Never told them not to go to Hannah's wedding, just made sure they understood the full picture. That Lily had worked 4 years for this moment. That she'd sent invitations 6 months ago. That everyone had RSVP'd to her graduation before Hannah even got engaged. Most of them had no idea about the conflict. Hannah had apparently sent her wedding invitations without mentioning it was the same day as Lily's graduation, just assumed everyone would drop everything for her big day. The responses were pretty consistent. People were uncomfortable. Some were angry. The cousins who'd grown up watching Hannah get everything while Lily got nothing were especially peeved. They'd seen this pattern their whole lives. I didn't have to convince anyone, just had to provide information they didn't have. Meanwhile, Hannah was posting wedding updates on social media every day. Dress shopping photos, cake tastings, venue tours. Every post was another reminder that this was happening, that she was making sure everyone knew her day was more important. Lily stopped using social media completely. I'd check in with her regularly. She was going through the motions at work and school, but the light had gone out of her eyes. She'd mention the graduation sometimes, then correct herself and say the wedding, like she'd already given up her own day. 3 weeks before May 15th, the RSVPs started changing. Aunt Robin was the first. She called Mom and explained she wouldn't be attending Hannah's wedding, that she'd already committed to Lily's graduation and wouldn't be changing plans. When Mom tried to argue that family should support Hannah on her special day, Robin pointed out that the same logic applied to Lily. Mom apparently got upset, said Robin was being selfish in ruining Hannah's wedding. Robin's response was that if one absent guest could ruin the wedding, maybe Hannah should reconsider her priorities. Uncle Frank called next. Same message. He'd be at Lily's graduation as planned. When Dad tried the guilt trip about family loyalty, Frank mentioned that loyalty works both ways, that Lily deserved the same support they'd always given Hannah. Then the cousins started calling one by one, all with the same message. They'd be attending Lily's graduation. They wished Hannah well, but couldn't support a decision that so clearly dismissed another family member's achievement. Hannah's guest list started falling apart. The extended family had all chosen Lily's graduation. Aunts, uncles, cousins, even some family friends who'd known all three of us growing up. They weren't being mean about it, just firm. They'd already committed to Lily's graduation and weren't changing plans. Hannah called me 4 days before the wedding. She was crying, asked what I'd done. Why was everyone abandoning her on the most important day of her life? The call came at midnight. I was already in bed, but answered because I knew this confrontation was coming. Had been waiting for it, honestly. Her voice was wrecked from crying. She could barely get words out between sobs. Started talking about how her dream wedding was falling apart, how she'd planned everything perfectly, and now it was ruined. How could people do this to her? I let her talk for a few minutes. Let her get it all out, the self-pity, the victimhood, the complete lack of self-awareness about what she'd done. When she finally paused for breath, I asked if she'd considered that graduation might be the most important day of Lily's life, that she'd worked 4 years for this moment, while Hannah had planned her wedding in 2 months. She said I was being cruel, that I'd turned the family against her, that I'd ruined her wedding out of jealousy. The accusation almost made me laugh. Jealous of what? Her unearned privileges, her complete inability to see anyone's perspective but her own, her desperate need to be the center of attention, even when it meant crushing other people. I told her I hadn't turned anyone against her. I just made sure people had all the information that they knew. Both events were happening on the same day, that they could make informed choices about which one mattered more to them. She screamed that weddings were more important than graduations, that everyone knew, that I was sabotaging her happiness because I couldn't stand seeing her succeed. Her voice got louder with each accusation. I could hear Brandon in the background telling her to calm down. She screamed at him too, told him he didn't understand what I was doing to her. I let her yell for a few minutes, didn't interrupt, didn't argue, just let her show exactly who she was. The tantrum of someone who'd never been told no in her entire life. Then I asked her a simple question. Did she know it was Lily's graduation day when she picked May 15th? The silence told me everything. She'd known. She'd picked that specific date, knowing it would force the family to choose, knowing that historically, they'd always chosen her. This was supposed to be another reminder that Hannah came first, that Lily didn't matter. Except this time, the family chose differently. Hannah tried a different approach. Begging. Said she'd always been there for me growing up, that siblings should support each other, that she needed me at her wedding. I pointed out that she hadn't been there for me growing up. She'd been there for herself while I raised myself, while Lily raised herself. While we both watched her get everything handed to her on a silver platter and were told to be grateful for scraps, she said I was exaggerating, that Mom and Dad treated us all the same, that I was remembering things wrong. I asked if she remembered the car she got for her 16th birthday, the private tutor, the college fund, the down payment on her house. Asked if she thought Lily or I got any of that. She said that wasn't her fault, that she didn't control what Mom and Dad did. Maybe not, but she'd benefited from it, encouraged it, used it to her advantage every chance she got. And now she was doing it again, taking something that belonged to Lily and making it about herself. She hung up on me. 2 days before the wedding, Mom and Dad showed up at my apartment. They weren't happy. I was making coffee when I heard the pounding on my door, aggressive knocking that made it clear this wasn't a friendly visit. Opened it to find both of them standing there looking like they'd been up all night. Dad was in his business casual outfit, the one he wore when he wanted to intimidate people. Mom had on her church clothes, the respectable suburban mother costume she used for serious conversations. They pushed past me into my apartment without asking. Dad went straight to my living room and turned to face me like we were in a courtroom. Mom positioned herself by the window, arms crossed. Dad launched into a speech about family obligations and supporting your siblings, about how I'd embarrassed Hannah and disappointed them, about how they expected better from their son. The speech was clearly rehearsed. He hit all the expected points. Family loyalty, being the bigger person, setting a good example, how my actions reflected poorly on how they'd raised me. Mom jumped in with the emotional appeal, talked about how hurt Hannah was, how she'd been crying for days, how her dream wedding was falling apart. How could I do this to my own sister? I let them both finish their prepared remarks. Didn't interrupt, didn't argue, just stood there with my coffee and waited for them to run out of steam. When Dad finally paused, I asked a simple question. When's Lily's graduation? They looked at each other. Neither could answer immediately. Mom started to say something about it being soon. Dad said something about May, but neither of them could give me the actual date. These were the people who'd been invited 6 months ago, who'd RSVP, who'd marked it on their calendar, and they couldn't remember the specific day. I told them the date, May 15th, same day as Hannah's wedding. That Lily had announced it 6 months ago with formal invitations, that they'd promised to be there. Mom jumped in saying the wedding was more important, that graduations happened all the time, that Lily would have other accomplishments to celebrate. I asked what those other accomplishments would be. When would they celebrate Lily? What would she have to achieve to earn the same attention they gave Hannah for just existing? Dad said, I was being disrespectful, that they'd raised me better than this. I disagreed. They'd raised me to watch favoritism in action and keep my mouth shut about it. They'd raised me to accept that Hannah mattered more than Lily or I ever would. They'd raised me to be okay with being invisible as long as the golden child was happy. Mom started crying, said I was breaking her heart, that she'd always loved all her children equally. I asked when they'd last had dinner with just Lily, when they'd last asked about her life without immediately changing the subject to Hannah, when they'd last acknowledged an accomplishment of hers without minimizing it. They couldn't answer any of those questions. Dad shifted tactics, said that even if I wasn't coming to the wedding, I needed to convince the extended family to change their minds. That Hannah's wedding was going to be ruined because of me. That I needed to fix this. I told them I couldn't fix what I hadn't broken. That Hannah had created this situation, that she'd deliberately chosen Lily's graduation day for her wedding, that the family had simply decided they'd supported Hannah enough, and it was Lily's turn. Mom said Lily wouldn't even care if they missed her graduation, that she'd understand family came first. That's what finally made me lose my cool, not yelling, just this cold, clear anger. I told them Lily cried in her car for an hour after Hannah announced the wedding date. That she'd already decided to skip her own graduation because she knew they'd choose Hannah. That she'd spent 4 years working toward this moment and was ready to give it up because she knew she didn't matter to them. Mom looked shocked, said she had no idea Lily was upset. I asked how she could not know. How could she not have noticed that Lily had stopped talking about her graduation after Hannah's announcement? How could she not see that their youngest daughter had given up on ever being important to them? Dad said I was being dramatic, that Lily was fine, that she'd never said anything about being upset. Of course she hadn't, because Lily had learned early that her feelings didn't matter to them, that speaking up only made things worse, that staying quiet and invisible was easier than fighting for attention she'd never get. They left without another word. I didn't hear from them again until the day before the wedding. The day before May 15th, Hannah's wedding planner called her. I only know this because Hannah called me immediately after screaming. Apparently the venue was threatening to cancel. The guest list had dropped from 150 people to 47. Most of those were Brandon's family and friends. From Hannah's side, it was basically just our parents and a few of her college friends who didn't know the context. The venue required a minimum of 100 guests for the package Hannah had booked. With only 47, they couldn't justify the staffing and setup. They offered to move her to a smaller space, but it would mean losing the garden area she'd wanted for photos, the waterfall backdrop, the fancy lighting, everything she'd posted about on social media for months. Hannah was hysterical, blamed me for ruining her wedding, for turning the family against her, for destroying the most important day of her life. I reminded her that she'd tried to destroy the most important day of Lily's life first, that actions have consequences, that people were tired of watching her treat everyone like supporting characters in her story. She said she'd change the date, that she'd move the wedding to a different day, if it meant people would come. I told her it was too late for that, that the damage was done. That even if she changed the date now, people had seen her true priorities. They'd watched her deliberately try to overshadow Lily's achievement. That you can't take back that level of selfishness. She sobbed into the phone, asked what she was supposed to do. The invitations were sent, the vendors were booked. Brandon's family had already traveled in. I suggested she have a smaller wedding, that 47 people who actually cared about her was better than 150 people who showed up out of obligation, that maybe this was an opportunity to learn something about herself. She hung up on me again. May 15th arrived. I woke up early, put on my best suit, picked up Lily from her apartment. She looked beautiful in this blue dress she bought for graduation. She'd done her hair and makeup, put effort into looking nice for a ceremony she thought nobody would attend. The drive to her campus was quiet. She kept fidgeting with her graduation cap. Finally asked if I really thought people would show up. I told her I knew they would. We arrived at the auditorium an hour before the ceremony. Lily had to check in and line up with the other graduates. I went to find seats, and the place was packed, not just with strangers, with our family. Aunt Robin had saved an entire row. Uncle Frank was there with his wife and kids. Cousins I hadn't seen in months. Second cousins who'd driven hours to be their family friends who'd known Lily since she was little. They'd all chosen Lily's graduation. Mom and Dad's seats were empty. I'd expected that. Hannah had managed to guilt them into going to the wedding. They were probably at the venue right now, sitting in a half-empty room pretending everything was fine, but everyone else was there holding signs with Lily's name, ready to cheer when she walked across that stage. The ceremony started. The dean gave a speech about perseverance and achievement, about students who'd worked full-time while pursuing their education, about the dedication it took to earn a degree while managing all of life's other responsibilities. The dean was this older woman who'd been at the college for 30 years. She talked about seeing students overcome incredible obstacles. Single parents working night shifts, people who'd gone back to school after decades away, students who'd faced homelessness or health crises or family emergencies, and still pushed through. She said that graduation was more than just a ceremony. It was a recognition of sacrifice, of early mornings and late nights, of choosing homework over social events, of believing in yourself when everyone else doubted you. I watched Lily in the crowd of graduates. She was in the third row, easy to spot in her blue dress under the graduation gown. She was scanning the audience with this nervous expression, like she was afraid to hope that anyone would actually be there for her. Then she saw our section. Her face changed completely. The nervous expression melted into shock, then joy, then tears. She saw Aunt Robin holding a sign that said, "Proud of you, Lily," in big purple letters. Saw Uncle Frank and his family waving. Saw cousins she'd grown up with but hadn't seen in months all sitting together. Saw the empty seats where Mom and Dad should have been, but also saw all the people who'd chosen to fill other seats instead. I saw her mouth drop open, saw her hand go to her chest, saw her say something to the girl sitting next to her. The girl looked at our section, and then back at Lily with a huge smile, gave her a hug. Lily started crying. Happy tears this time. The kind of tears that come when you realize you're not alone. That people care. That your achievement matters to someone. She kept wiping her eyes during the dean's speech, kept looking back at our section like she needed to make sure we were still there. That this wasn't a dream. When they called her name, our entire row stood up and cheered. Aunt Robin screamed her name. Uncle Frank whistled. The cousins held up their signs. We made sure everyone in that auditorium knew that Lily mattered, that her achievement was worth celebrating. Lily walked across that stage with the biggest smile I'd ever seen on her face, accepted her diploma, posed for photos, waved at our section. This was her moment. Nobody was taking it away from her. After the ceremony, we had a surprise for her. Robin had coordinated with the cousins to rent a space at a local restaurant. Nothing fancy, just a private room where we could all celebrate together. The restaurant was this family-owned Italian place that Aunt Robin knew the owners of. They'd given us the back room for a few hours. The cousins had decorated it with blue and gold balloons. Someone had made a banner that said, "Congratulations, Lily," in hand-painted letters. When we walked in, Lily stopped in the doorway, looked around at everything, at the decorations at the table, set up with a cake that someone had ordered, at all the family members already gathered and waiting. She turned to me with tears in her eyes, asked if I'd planned all this. I told her it was a group effort, that everyone wanted to celebrate her properly. Robin came over and hugged Lily tight, told her how proud she was, that this was long overdue, that Lily had earned every bit of recognition and more. Uncle Frank presented her with a card that everyone had signed. Inside was money that the extended family had pulled together. A few $100s to help with books or supplies or whatever she needed. Lily tried to refuse it, said it was too much. Frank closed her hand around the envelope and told her to stop arguing. That family took care of family the right way. Not the way our parents had been doing it. We'd gotten her gifts. Not expensive ones, just meaningful things. Books for her, major gift cards for supplies, a framed photo of her with all of us that someone had taken at a family reunion years ago. Small things that showed we'd been paying attention to who she was and what she cared about. One of the cousins got her a journal with her name engraved on the cover. Said Lily should document this new chapter of her life, all the good things that were coming. Another cousin got her a professional portfolio folder. Said Lily would need it for job interviews and business meetings, that she was going places and needed to look the part. Each gift came with a little speech. Someone sharing a memory of Lily, talking about something she'd done that had impressed them or made them laugh or shown her character. Lily kept thanking everyone, saying she couldn't believe they'd all come, kept tearing up when someone would give a speech about how proud they were of her. The cake was this beautiful thing with blue frosting and gold accents. Had "Congratulations, Lily" written across the top in elegant script. Someone had added little fondant books and a graduation cap as decorations. When we sang to her, Lily covered her face with her hands, embarrassed but also glowing. When she blew out the candles, everyone cheered, asked her what she wished for. She said she didn't need to wish for anything, that she already had everything she needed right there in that room. Uncle Frank gave the best speech, talked about watching Lily grow up, about how she'd always been quietly determined, how she'd never asked for help, but always helped others, how this graduation represented not just academic achievement, but personal strength. He said, "Some people are born on third base and think they hit a triple." But Lily had started at home plate with one arm tied behind her back and still made it to third base through pure determination. That was worth celebrating. My phone kept buzzing during the celebration messages from Hannah, from Mom, from Dad. I ignored all of them. This wasn't about them. This was about Lily. We stayed at the restaurant for hours, ate, laughed, took pictures, made speeches, celebrated an accomplishment that deserved celebrating. Lily pulled me aside. At one point, hugged me tight. Thanked me for believing her achievement mattered, for making sure she didn't spend this day alone. I told her she'd never be alone again, that the people in this room were her real family, the ones who showed up when it mattered. That night, after everyone had left, I finally checked my messages. Hannah's wedding had been a disaster. The venue had moved them to the smaller space at the last minute. The photos she'd planned were ruined. Half the vendors hadn't showed up because the reduced guest count made it not worth their time. Mom and Dad had spent the whole reception crying because barely anyone from our family had attended. Hannah's final message was short. "I hope you're happy. You destroyed my wedding." I didn't respond. I was happy, but not because I destroyed her wedding. I was happy because Lily had the graduation she deserved. Because our family had finally recognized that she mattered. Hannah had destroyed her own wedding the moment she decided Lily's achievement was worth sacrificing for her own convenience. I just made sure there were consequences for that choice. The aftermath was predictable. Mom and Dad sent a long email about how disappointed they were in me, how I'd created a family divide that might never heal, how I'd prioritized spite over family unity. I wrote back with one sentence. I prioritized the family member who'd been ignored for 22 years. They didn't respond. Hannah tried to mend bridges a few weeks later, called saying she understood now why people were upset, that she should have been more considerate of Lily's graduation, that she wanted to apologize. I told her the apology needed to go to Lily, not me, that I wasn't the one she'd wronged. She asked if I'd help facilitate a conversation, be there to mediate. I said no. That this was between her and Lily, that she needed to face the consequences of her actions without me running interference. She never made that call to Lily. Aunt Robin mentioned later that Hannah had complained to Mom about how unfair the whole situation was, how she'd been punished for making one mistake, how the family had turned against her over a simple scheduling conflict. Robin had apparently laughed in her face, told her that this wasn't one mistake. This was the culmination of 35 years of entitlement, of taking for granted that she'd always come first, of assuming everyone else's accomplishments were less important than her own desires. The family dynamic shifted after that. Extended family started making more effort with Lily and less with Hannah. Invitations went to Lily first. People checked her schedule before planning events. She went from invisible to valued. Hannah noticed started posting passive-aggressive things on social media about family loyalty and fake people. Nobody engaged. Her comment sections got quieter and quieter. Meanwhile, Lily thrived, got a better job using her new degree, moved into a nicer apartment, started posting about her life with confidence. Instead of apologizing for existing, the difference in her was night and day. 6 months after the wedding, Mom called, said they wanted to have a family dinner, all 5 of us, to clear the air and move forward. I asked if they'd apologized to Lily yet. Mom said they were waiting to do it in person. At the dinner, I told her that wasn't good enough, that Lily deserved a direct apology without an audience, that using a family dinner to force reconciliation was just another way of prioritizing Hannah's comfort over Lily's feelings. Mom said I was being difficult, that they were trying to fix things and I wasn't helping. I said they should have been trying to fix things for 22 years. That one dinner wasn't going to erase decades of favoritism and neglect. I didn't go to that dinner, neither did Lily. We had our own dinner at her apartment, ordered food, watched movies, had an actual good time without the drama. Hannah apparently left the family dinner early, couldn't handle being in the hot seat for once, couldn't deal with being the one who had to answer uncomfortable questions instead of being celebrated. Dad called me after, said I was tearing the family apart, that I needed to be the bigger person and help fix this. I asked why I had to be the bigger person. Why was it always on Lily and me to accommodate Hannah to make things comfortable for everyone else while swallowing our own hurt? He didn't have an answer. The truth is, the family was already torn apart. It had been for years. I'd just finally stopped pretending it wasn't. Lily's doing great now. She got promoted at work, started dating someone who treats her well, talks about going back for her bachelor's degree, has plans and dreams and the confidence to pursue them. She thanked me again recently, said that graduation was the turning point, that having people show up for her, having her achievement recognized and celebrated, gave her the strength to believe she deserved good things. That's what made everything worth it. Not revenge against Hannah, not proving a point to my parents, but watching Lily finally understand that she matters. Hannah's marriage is fine, I guess. Brandon seems happy. They moved to a different state shortly after the wedding. Fresh start, Hannah called it. Running away, Aunt Robin called it. I see Hannah maybe once a year now. Family functions she can't avoid. We're polite, but not close. She still hasn't apologized to Lily, probably never will. Some people never learn. Mom and Dad try to split holidays now. Come to my place for part of it. Go to Hannah's for the rest. Try to balance things in a way they never did when we were growing up. Too little, too late. But I guess it's something. Lily comes to every family event now. Not hiding anymore. Not making herself small. She takes up space unapologetically. It's beautiful to watch. Last Thanksgiving, we were all at my place. Extended family, cousins, the whole group. We went around the table saying what we were thankful for. When it was Lily's turn, she said she was thankful for family who showed up when it mattered, who proved that achievement and hard work deserved recognition, who chose to celebrate with her instead of taking the easy path. She didn't look at Mom and Dad when she said it. Didn't have to. Everyone knew who she was talking about and who she wasn't. Hannah left early that night too. Said she wasn't feeling well. Nobody tried to stop her. Some people ask if I regret how things went down, if I wish I'd handled it differently. Let Hannah have her wedding without interference. Honestly, no regrets.